Stop scrolling right now because what you are about to hear is not just a love story. It is a journey into something deeper, something unforgettable, something that will stay with you long after this video ends. So stay with me till the very last second, because this story might change the way you see love, timing, and the people around you. And before you leave, think about someone you have not spoken to in a while, because sometimes the words we delay become the ones we regret the most. In a world filled with flashing lights, endless cameras, and constant attention, there are stories that never reach the surface, stories that exist quietly behind smiles and perfect images. And in that world stood two people, Lee Joon-ho and Yoona. To millions, they were icons, admired, celebrated, and loved from a distance. But beyond the fame, beyond the spotlight, there was something no one ever saw. Something real, something fragile, something that was never meant to be known. It began on a set, like most stories do. Long days, repeated scenes, shared moments between takes, and quiet conversations that slowly became something more. Joon-ho carried a calm presence, strong yet reserved, the kind of person who kept his thoughts locked behind a steady expression. Yoona had a warmth that felt effortless, a softness that made people feel understood without saying much. At first, it was simple. Professional greetings, polite smiles, nothing unusual. But then came the moments in between, the silence that felt comfortable, the glances that lasted just a second too long, the conversations that slowly moved beyond scripts and into something deeper. One evening, after filming wrapped, the set became quiet. The noise faded, the lights dimmed, and the world around them slowed down. Yoona stayed behind, sitting quietly, her eyes lost in thought. Joon-ho noticed. He walked toward her, not rushing, just present. He sat beside her and said softly, "You stay after everyone leaves." She smiled faintly. "It feels easier to think when everything is quiet." He nodded, understanding more than she realized. That was the moment everything changed. From that day on, their connection grew. Not loudly, not dramatically, but in ways only they could feel. They began to talk more, not just about work, but about life. Joon-ho spoke about expectations, about the pressure to always be strong, always be perfect. Yoona spoke about loneliness, about how being surrounded by people does not always mean you are not alone. And in those conversations, they found something rare: understanding. Days turned into weeks, and weeks turned into something neither of them could define. Late-night messages became normal. Simple questions became meaningful. Did you eat became "Are you okay?" And good night became something they both hesitated to say, because ending the conversation felt like losing something. But not all stories are allowed to grow. Rumors began to spread. Fans noticed small details. The way they looked at each other. The way they avoided certain questions. The way their names appeared together more often than expected. And with that attention came pressure. Management stepped in. Advice became warnings. Distance became necessary. And slowly everything began to change. Messages became shorter. Replies became delayed. Calls became rare. The silence that once felt warm now felt heavy. One night, Yoona sat alone, her phone glowing in the dark. She read their old messages, smiled at the memories, paused at the words that once meant everything. Her fingers hovered as she typed, "Do you ever think about what this could have been?" She stared at it, her heart racing, and then she deleted it. At that same moment, Joon-ho stood by a window, looking at the city lights, lost in thoughts he could not escape. His phone lit up. Her name appeared, but no message followed. He waited, but nothing came. And somehow, that silence said everything. Days passed, then weeks. They met again on set, but everything felt different. The same place, the same people, but not the same feeling. They stood close, yet felt distant. Their conversations became careful. Their smiles became controlled. At one point, their eyes met, and in that moment, everything they never said was understood. But neither of them spoke, because sometimes the truth feels heavier than silence. Time moved on, and eventually the project ended. The final day came quietly. No dramatic goodbye. No confession. Just a simple exchange. Take care. You too. And just like that, they walked away. In different directions. But some stories do not end when people separate. They stay. Months later, Yoona found herself standing in a familiar place. The same quiet corner where they once talked about life, about silence, about everything that mattered. Everything looked the same, but nothing felt the same. She closed her eyes, remembering the laughter, the quiet moments, the connection they never named. At the same time, Junho had stepped away from everything. Fewer appearances, less noise, more distance. Because sometimes the only way to protect your heart is to step away from what hurts the most. One night, unable to hold back anymore, Yoona picked up her phone. She stared at his name, and then she sent a message. I hope you are okay. Minutes passed, then longer. And just when she thought there would be no reply, her phone lit up. I miss the silence we had together. Her breath caught. Her hands trembled as she replied. Then why did we let it go? There was a pause. A long one. And then his reply came. Because loving you meant risking everything we built. Tears filled her eyes. Not loud. Not dramatic. Just quiet pain. The kind that stays. They talked that night. About everything they avoided. About what they felt. About what they lost. And in that moment, they both realized something. The feeling never left. It was still there. Strong. Real. Unchanged. But reality had not changed. And sometimes, love is not enough. The conversation ended the same way it always did. Good night. But this time it felt final. Days turned into weeks. No more messages. No more calls. Just memories. Time moved forward, as it always does. But some things do not fade. Some connections remain. Not in presence, but in the quiet space between what was and what could have been. Years later, their paths crossed again. Not planned. Not expected. Just a moment. A glance across a room filled with people. Everything paused. The noise faded. The world disappeared. For a second it felt like nothing had changed. But everything had. They walked toward each other slowly. No rush. No hesitation. Just two people carrying years of unspoken words. They stood face to face. Silence. And then Yoona spoke softly. Are you happy? Junho looked at her, his eyes holding something deeper than before. I learned to be. She nodded, a small smile forming, one that carried both peace and pain. I am glad. They stood there for a moment longer. And then, just like before, they walked away. Not because they did not care, but because some stories are not meant to be lived fully. Some are meant to be remembered. So before you leave this video, think about someone in your life. Someone you care about. Someone you have not said everything to. Do not wait. Do not assume there will always be time. Because sometimes, the moment you are waiting for never comes. If this story touched your heart, do not just scroll away. Like this video. Share it with someone who needs it. And subscribe for more stories that are not just watched, but felt deeply. Because some stories are not meant to be forgotten.